Well, the movie Rust will probably never make it to cut, but it seems that the situation with the shooting that happened on the set is taking an interesting turn. And we're going to go through a little bit of the timeline that how I know it and why my previous video on this is absolutely right. Well, it seems today several different news outlets are now talking about dummy rounds and how a live ammunition ended up in a box of dummy rounds that were loaded into the smoking gun in this case. Alec Baldwin, even if he had some basic training, may have still missed it if he looked at the weapon. It seems from what I'm reading and what I am telling you guys that everything that I had mentioned before, that this was some sort of sabotage or some sort of setup. I wasn't entirely sure where it would lie, but it seems that now people are inflating what has happened here. It seems that the props master, or the armorer in this case, their lawyer, is stating that it seems that someone put a live round in the box of dummy rounds, which are different from blanks from my understanding. A normal live round will have gunpowder and the bullet in it, where a blank will have gunpowder without a bullet, but a dummy round is supposed to look like a live round, but it doesn't have the gunpowder. My understanding of a cold weapon on set is that there is no gunpowder loaded in the gun, meaning there is no live round and no blank round in the gun. So, where does that put us? Where are we now? What has happened here was, well, let's go through a bit of the timeline here. And I went over a lot of stuff that happened 3 days prior to this incident unfolding on the set of Rust. Alec Baldwin had actually put a video up on Facebook, and if you guys want to see that, I'm going to put up a card in the top corner, and you guys can go watch that video, because I break down quite a bit of the video, chop it up a little bit so it's easy to understand what's going on there. But Alec Baldwin actually calls out the executives here, tells the union cast members to do what they need to do in order to get their contracts negotiated properly and settled, because there is an ongoing strike and union disagreement with IATSE, which is the International Actors Association. It's the crew members union that's going on there. And in this particular production, people were having to sleep in their vehicles. People were having to get rest where they could, or they had to drive about an hour's time away to be able to sleep and then return for another grueling day. They were looking at 13 to 14 hour days on the set from everything I'm reading, and they were not holding safety meetings or holding any sort of safety standards. And I'm an electrician. I've been an electrician now for 15 years, and I am very familiar with safety talks and doing hazard assessments and doing these things. I've even gone and taken legislation awareness, which is another course that lets me know a lot of the laws around the OHS here in Alberta, which there's a lot that gets broken down there. And yes, Alec Baldwin was also a producer on set, but to get that title, usually the main actor is a producer in some sort of fashion. They are producing a craft, they are producing their craft and going forward with it. So a lot of people I've seen saying, yes, he was a producer, he should be held accountable. Yes, he should, because there were some safety infractions that were being overlooked here. But the video I did previously had Alec Baldwin calling out those safety infractions. He was siding with the union member members that were let go on this set 6 hours prior to this event happening. Now, my understanding, and from what I'm seeing here with the breakdown of events, is that some of the union members were goofing off between takes and using the prop weapon on the set for live target practice, meaning they were using live rounds on a set which they should have been banned. First off, that is an infraction, a safety infraction that comes back on those members solely. That is something that shouldn't have been happening in the first place. And if the safety was that lax that crew members could get away with something like that and no discipline and no worries behind it, then obviously there was a very, very sad telling of this story and where this ended up. Now, crew members were very upset. They were having to sleep in their vehicles or drive an hours away, which they said is 50 miles. I'm in Canada, so I'm used to driving about that much in a day for my job. It's no real thing, but when you're doing a 12 to 13 hour day, then that hour drive is dreadful. That is a absolute harsh reality. When it comes down to it, you don't get time to sleep or eat in those times. And coming off a shutdown that I just did here, it is a lot of pressure and stress and mentality that you have to get into. And any sort of outlet that you can get, you will take it to let off some steam. And I believe that is what's happened here with those crew members. Now, they were upset. Alec Baldwin called out that there were safety infractions on the set and that telling the crew members to do what they need to do. And the crew members were ready to walk. They actually were packing up their gear when a new crew, in this case, which would be known in union terms as scabs, showed up and booted them off the set. Instead of them having the chance to walk off the set and hold a strike, they weren't allowed. They were locked out and they were pushed off the set by another crew that was brought in by the production company, which in this case is who was calling the shots here. And if they didn't like what was going on, the production was pushing it forward. And they were the ones that were pushing past the safety infractions and should ultimately be held responsible for everything that has gone here. I say throw the book at them, figure out every safety infraction that went by the wayside, and throw the book at them, because someone lost their life and obviously a lot of people lost their jobs. This movie is not going to be made, and the executives in this situation are still going to walk away with a giant fortune in grants that would have been granted by the state to be able to shoot this video, to shoot this movie there in the first place, because in most movies there's a certain amount of grants that are given to a production to showcase the land that they're doing it on, showcase where the movie's made. And that is what happens from my understanding, in a lot of these productions. And they've been lining their pockets with these grants for years. The money is normally there, and why movies continue to be made. Why we continue to see bombs of movies getting made as well. Now, the crew members leave. Obviously, in the kerfuffle, there's obviously high tensions here, and one of them, or two of them, probably still had those live rounds in their pocket. Someone decided that they were going to make a safety hazard happen and mix one of those rounds in with these dummy rounds that do, to a naked eye, to a person that doesn't know. I do not know anything. I've never even held a weapon like this. So you guys know, I don't even know what I am looking at. I may be out to lunch at what I'm talking about. But to the normal person, like myself, probably wouldn't even have a clue between the two from the backside of the shell. So you now have a gun, you look down, you spin the barrel, and you see that they all look very similar, and you're told it's a cold weapon. Are you going to dump that 6-shooter out and check every casing when you're told it's a cold weapon and they're dummy shells that are in there in the first place. Not blanks. These were supposed to be dummies. They were just supposed to have the look. Obviously, if they were just to have a look, this would have been for camera purposes to see the shots in the gun, in this case, for the camera to actually pick it up from that angle. And it sounds like Baldwin, because he was being condescending and dramatic, he said, well, you want me to show you a shot, and pulled it up and fired the weapon, not knowing that live round was mistakenly put in there. Now, also, it seems the production company skipped the armorer in this case. The armorer would have been the person that ultimately should have loaded the weapon, should have taken care of it, but it sounds like they were pushed to the side and weren't even allowed to do that. Now, that is all substantiated. It's all stuff that still needs to come out, and it seems like they're slowly trickling out that information. And this investigation, that when it continues to go on, will be very interesting to see where this lies. All I gotta say, guys, you know what, I made the first video. Go watch it, because there's a lot of valuable information that's permanent to that is part of this case. And I think following that timeline that I'm looking at here is a logical way of looking at it and where I believe it may have gone. I've seen a lot of people saying Baldwin should have known better, should have checked the weapon more, should have done this, should have done that. Unfortunately, those shouldn'ts didn't happen. They couldn't have happened. He was warned that it was a cold weapon. From the naked eye, he probably looked and couldn't tell the difference. Anyway, guys, this is all I got. And honestly, I believe this is where it's gone. Was he a pawn in this is going to be the biggest thing. That is the next thing that's got to be determined by the investigators and by the case. If someone put those live rounds in that box or around it in such a case where it would be loaded into the weapon and given to Baldwin to fire, was this something that was set up premeditated wise? I don't believe so. I would guess this was an opportunity for the crew that was walking off the set to cause some havoc. And unfortunately, because they were already doing safety infractions and having their way with the site, and they didn't have control of the site or the situation, they didn't care. Unfortunately, someone lost their life over this, and I am heartbroken to hear that, and I hope their family will recover from this ultimately. Does Baldwin hold some accountability here? Yes. Does the production hold most of the accountability here? 100% yes. They're the ones that need to take the fall on this. Baldwin will take probably some knocks over this. Will he ever hold a weapon again? I don't know. If he ever does, maybe he should go get some proper training, and that would actually probably indicate a lot more behind it and give him a lot more insight on what's going on there. Anyway, guys, this is your proud Canadian Phoenix signing off. You guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey, and if you found this informative, share it out where you can.